Okay, so welcome to section 7.1, percents and fractions, or fractions and percents. This chapter is all about percent. So most of it is review, but we're going to go through it again and treat a lot of it like it's brand new, or at least newer. But yeah, percent. So you've already worked with fractions and decimals and converted them back and forth, did that in chapter 3. Now we're going to talk about making percents fractions and making fractions percents. And this is kind of the start to how you do percent problems, is understanding how they work back and forth between fractions and decimals and fractions and percents and whatnot, and we'll move along as we go through. So first of all, percent. The word percent, it's a very simple word. It just means out of 100. Okay, and if you think about it, when you say cents in a dollar, that's 100 pennies. Century is 100 years. So cent itself literally means 100. And then you got the word per. Okay, so out of 100. And that's what percent does, is it takes something that's out of a number we don't know or we do know, and we say let's make it consistent, make it out of something that we can all compare things to, that we're comfortable with, and that number is 100. We compare it to something out of 100. Here's a nice drawing the book has. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about the percent symbol. And as you'll see when I start writing it by hand, it's very sloppy. I'm terrible at writing these things. But percent means out of 100. There's the percent symbol. So a percent is a part to whole ratio that compares a number to 100, which is basically what I said. Take something, put it out of 100. So when we say 80%, that means they have 80 out of 100 or 80 over 100. And they've got 80 of these guys in blue versus the whole box of 100. So first thing, how to write a percent as a fraction. Since it's out of 100, what we just do is we put the percent as a number over 100 and then simplify that fraction. That's it. That's all we have to do. Take that, put it over 100, reduce it, done. So, first example. Write 40% as a fraction, simplest form. Okay, so 40% means 40 out of 100. That's what we're really saying. Per 100, 40 out of 100. So as a fraction, that's 40 over 100. And then we just reduce it. I can knock a 0 out of each of them, dividing by 10, so we get 4 over 10. Then I can divide both of those by 2, and I get 2 over 5. So 40% as a percent, sorry, not decimal, we'll do that next. 40 as a percent is equivalent to 2 out of 5 as a fraction. Okay. All right. Now the next example is a little more complicated. So we're going to write 56 and 1/4% as a fraction in simplest form. Okay, so 56 and 1/4%. Well, that means 56 and 1/4 out of 100. Okay, but that causes us a problem, because if I try to throw that over 100, we run into the dreaded fraction within a fraction issue. Now there are multiple ways to get around this, but I'm going to go through the most consistent way to do it, and what that is to make this an improper fraction. So 56 and 1/4, well, we do that by taking 56, multiplying it by 4, which is 224, and then add the 1, so that is 225 over 4. Okay. So I'm running out of space in the sheet of paper, so I'm going to start a new one. So this becomes then 225 over 4 over 100. So that's our first thing to do, is to take that, write it as an improper fraction, and then put it over 100. And now what I can do is multiply the top and bottom by that denominator. And what that'll do is it'll cancel this off, and that gives us 225 over 400. Okay. And now our job is just to basically reduce this fraction as best we can. There is a trick to this. If you think of this has got 25s in it, and again, I don't care how you reduce it, you're going to reduce it on your own. But for me, I think of this as 25s, and I think of it as dollars. $2.25. That's 9 quarters. So dividing by 25 gives me 9 on top. divide this by 25, $4 is 16 quarters because there's 4 quarters per dollar. So this reduces to 9 over 16. Now for your trial, okay, on your thing there, I want you to do 35% as a fraction in simplest form. Work it out, give me the answer. Okay. So now, how to write a fraction as a percent. Okay. So now this is the one where we go back to chapter 6. Why we did this chapter 6 before we did chapter 7. If I want to write a fraction as a percent, I'm trying to figure out what is that number out of 100. You know, if I go back to, for instance, here, when I had 2/5, you know, I'd have the fraction 2/5, and what I'd be saying is 2/5 is what number out of 100, because we're trying to do compare it to 100. Well, what have I done? Oh, I just set up a proportion. Okay, so in order to write a fraction as a percent, we just set up a proportion with the fraction equal to a number out of 100. And that's it. So, for instance, 19 over 20 as a percent. And I know some of you may know these off the top of your head, which is great, having a lot of these memorized. It really is. But if we don't, which is kind of the idea here, let's say we don't have these memorized, how do we go about it? Well, I'm saying 19 out of 20 equals some number out of 100. And that x is going to be our percent, x percent. Okay, so cross multiply. 20x equals 1900. Divide by 20. I can knock off a 0. And if you need to, do the long division as well. Again, the division work is up to you. 120 over 9, though, or 190 over 20 is 190 over 2, excuse me, because I knocked off a 0, is 95. So this is 95%. Okay. All right. And again, don't stop here. This is a common mistake. Just go, yeah, x is 95. It's not 95. Okay, this number is not equal to 95. It's equal to 95%. And when we get to section 7.2 and talk about decimals and fractions, decimals and percents, we'll see why. All right, next example, 8 out of 5. Okay. Now this is always a classic one because someone will say, well, that's too big. That's big. 8's bigger than 5. That's true, but that's okay. We can have numbers bigger than the top number, bigger than the bottom. So again, 8 over 5 is x over 100. Cross multiply. That gives me 5x equals 800. Divide by 5. Okay. Now I'm going to do this one long division, even though I could probably sort it out in my head if I really wanted to. I think it's 160. Yeah, 160. So x equals 160. So 160%. Okay. So notice we got over 100%. We'll talk about what that means when we actually start doing real percent problems. But it was bigger on top than it was on bottom. That's okay. We just got a percent more than 100. All right. Now for your example, you're going to write out 17/25 as a percent. Okay. And then Amy got, now here's a word problem just to kind of give you a little bit of context. And this is the context, to be honest, where you guys see this most often. You may not pay attention to it because you just get your test back from me and just look at the answers. But this is what I do. I just, you know, I do this on the calculator, or I do it in my head if I've got it memorized. I do have a lot of memorized. But Amy got 17 questions correct out of 20 on a test. What percent did she get right? Okay, so you got 17 out of 20. So this is where I go, okay, well, and this is what you'd see on your test, you know, like -3, 17 over 20 equals score. But that's what I'm thinking is I'm saying 17 out of 20 is what number of 100? Okay, so, okay, 17 over 20 equals x over 100. And then, you know, on the calculator, like I said, I've got some of these memorized. I would just do it in my head, but I got 20x equals 1700, divide by 20. again, I can cancel out a 0. And then 170 divided by 2, 85%. So this would be an 85% on that test, which is a B. Okay. But that's what it'd be, 85% for our answer. Okay, so we'll go over some more examples in class. We'll talk about more involved problems. But if you do have any questions, come in and see me before school or send me an email or something. But yeah, there's section 7.1.